where was your health and fitness before starting with me?
Average. I would think it would have been bang average. I was carrying too much weight, and I just sort of accepted it and got on with it. I was pretty active, so I used to think that that was a sufficient sort of counterbalance to that. And so I'd be running 20 miles a week, and I've done lots of events over the last 20-25 years, but I didn't think too much about what I was putting into my body. There was no real plan. Bobbling along. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was awful, but there was definitely room for improvement.
Before we started, what worries or concerns did you have about?
It was around the changes that you have to make, and this is pre-joining, changes you have to make and how that might impact on either social or family life. So I think actually that was quite a big one.
Okay.
And I'm quite a sociable person, and if my wife, obviously live with my wife, and if she's not going to change, she's not doing this program, so am I suddenly going to be saying, oh, I need to eat different food and all? So that was probably, and again, it didn't materialize. So small changes that you can make here and there don't have to impact everybody else, and you can still live your life, still go for a drink, still go for a meal. Just be sensible. Little bits here and there, not little bits off the edge is enough, or how it was for me anyway.
What was going through your mind at the time before you joined up, before you signed up to your initial 6-week challenge?
Yeah, okay. Wasn't concerned about the group at all. I've joined lots of different fitness sessions and running groups and things over time, so that's fine. I like meeting new people, and if I had been worried, that would have been unfounded anyway, because it's a great group of people, an evolving group of people, but always friendly, always supportive, which I think obviously comes from you to start with. In terms of what were my concerns?
Were there any?
I think there were. I think there always are. I think you make a decision on something, and what I'm trying to remember, what were my main kind of possible why was I maybe holding back at first? Perhaps it could it be seen as a fad? Could it be seen as, I've seen this all before, I've tried other things that maybe haven't worked and haven't quite had the effect that I wanted them to, so is it just going to be another one of those? What you'd be asked to do, and the commitment, not necessarily time commitment, but actually committing to make a change. I'm sure everybody's got that little bit of inertia, I think the word is, isn't it, where you just go, I'm all right, I'll carry on as I am, I'm not that bad. Okay. I don't need to change, but there was just something was nagging at the back of my mind going, no, you do need to do something.
What actually happened?
That it was different. Your classes and your whole group was not the same as anything I'd done before. It did have more focus, it had more sort of laser guided goals and a process of how you're going to get there, not just come to a class and then you'll get fitter. And don't worry about anything else that you do for the other 167 hours a week. When you actually think about it like that, it's never going to change, is it? That's not going to work. So little and often changes that we made, and a target. I think the first target was just to do with the 5K time. Did a test run, and then 6 weeks later did a result run, if you like, to see how that had gone. And it was, I can't remember the time actually, but it was a couple of minutes, I think, quicker. It was so straight away it was like, okay, this works, so that's good. And you can still live your life, still go for a drink, still go for a meal, just be sensible. Little bits here and there, not little bits off the edge is enough, or how it was for me anyway.
Yeah, because you'd lived your life a certain way up until joining with us, and we had the discussions about how I didn't want to overhaul everything for you because you weren't going to stick to it. It was about, okay, this is where James is right now. Let's look at where we can get the 1% improvements day upon day, right? And then over 6 weeks, that accumulated to, dropping your 5K result time. But tell me about how you felt. What was the difference in how you felt after that 6 weeks?
I'm trying to remember how much of it was within the 6 weeks and how much of it was within the second sort of, the second sign up. But overall, clearly there was an improvement. Clearly there was some weight loss. That was the biggest thing. I think the weight loss had a bigger impact on my mindset. But then the two go hand in hand. Absolutely go hand in hand. Couldn't have done the times without the weight loss. And it was just great. It was just good to be doing something that wasn't a massive imposition on my life to make some small changes, but you still have to think about it. And you're still sacrificing a little bit, even if it's not much. You're just making small sacrifices. But to actually see some results that come directly off the back of that definitely wouldn't have happened had you not made those small changes. There's no question. You can't cheat in running, can you? You put the work in, you get the results. And so that was massive. That made it that to see an improve, and the measurement. I mean, that was a big thing, especially early on and through that first, say, 6 months, was measure progress constantly to keep that accountability and keep that checking. And again, at first you think, it's a little bit onerous to keep doing it, but you've got to do that. I think definitely early on. And just, we joked about it, didn't we, having to buy new clothes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's great. It's really good. Noticeably buying smaller size clothes.
What are the top 3 results that you've got from your time with MPRS so far?
10 to 12 kilo weight loss, as if that's a result. If we're not talking race times,
it can be whatever you want.
Yeah, okay. Well, I would say that has to be, if it's not number one, it attaches to everything that's happened.
Yeah.
Because without it, we wouldn't have got the other results. And then in terms of, so you could say that's almost part of the process, but it's still definitely class it as a result. My general sort of feeling of well-being, I feel stronger. Forget running, just generally in life. You do it, you just you run up the stairs. Yeah, so what? Just run up the stairs. Don't feel tired. Oh, I've got to carry something out to the car, or that just general. I definitely feel fitter. Definitely feel stronger. The race time results. So within the period of working with you, I've had a 5K PB, a 10K PB, a half marathon equal-ish PB, give or take a few seconds, depending on what you look at, and a marathon PB. And then faster times at every park run. I'm not a park run tourist. I've been to about 5, and I've done all those 5 in the last year, and I've done a faster time at every one of those than I've ever done. Okay, I've done 50 or some 40 or 50, so not many, but so everywhere you look, the times are quicker by any measurement in the last year than I've done in running. I've been running since mid-90s, early 90s.
Yeah,
since I was in my 20s.
So, you did that, James. You did that.
Yeah, absolutely. We did it together, but yeah, of course, and that's when you look at that, that's quite bonkers, really. That's quite, especially the range of distances. Yeah. And I think the biggest change has been the sort of around that 10K mark. That feels like a different race now. It doesn't feel like a distance race. It feels like I can have a go, but almost from the start. So, the last Tuesday, that TAD one, I got to half an hour and thinking, wow, we're 2/3 of the way through here. Let's have a go.
Wow,
it's a great feeling. Yeah, it was really good. It wasn't. This is a distance race, and I've got to just get myself to the end. It was right, what can we do in the last 2 miles? So yeah, really, that has to be one of the three biggest changes, being around mindset, what's possible, what you can change, what you can do, and also just almost a mindset around food. I don't think of food. I think of it differently to how I did a year ago. No question. Yeah, it's not perfect. It's not perfect, and I still have that kind of fancy a chocolate bar or whatever.
There is no perfect, James.
No, but also I'm fine about that. I don't want to beat. I don't beat myself up over it. I've maintained the weight now. That's it. I don't even think about it. I remember you were really big early on about you're not going to do it unless you've got a reason to do it, unless you've got a target or something to think around. Otherwise, you just carry on. You just carry on doing the same thing. You've got to think, why am I doing this, and go back to why rather than just yes or no.
Looking back, what would you say has been the biggest lesson for you that you've learned?
It's never too late, because there is definitely a conversation, if you like, around people is, well, you're in your 50s, or you can't do anything about it now. It's too late. You're not going to get any fitter. You're not going to get quicker. You're not going to whatever. Or you've got yourself into a certain mindset. Too late to change it, because you can't teach old dogs new tricks, all that kind of thing. So that's a big thing.
If you were to, would you recommend coming along and having a go at MPRS? And B, if so, what would you say?
I would absolutely. I mean, yes, given everything that we've talked about, and the positive effect it's had on me, physically, mentally, I would absolutely recommend somebody comes along and gives it a go and sees themselves, and also give it a little bit of time as well. Definitely not going to be able to decide within a week or two. You have to give it some time. There has to be an inner desire and a commitment to make a change. It is hard, hard work, but it's not going to happen on its own. You have to make some changes. You have to be willing to, my big thing we laughed about was, I was a box ticker. So I was willing to say, right, these are the 4 things I've got to do at some point today, and I was willing to do it. It didn't take long. It might only take half an hour to do those 4 things across a day, but you need to be willing to commit and make a change. Otherwise, it is a waste. I suspect you would just be wasting your time. But the change is there to be made. It's within anybody to do it.